Okay, now the image on this page is a little bit touched up, as you see. It's not the real me, it's the idealized version of me. Just the head that is true, the rest of it was created by a great graphics artist, and I love that it's my ambition to go back to this weight, and I'm really struggling. If any of you have any words of encouragement, I would appreciate them. So, the topic of my talk is skills speaking in and out of class. And I know that in my abstract, I talked about the necessity of extending speaking practice out of the classroom because we never have enough time. So, let's have a look. I am trying, Vito. You think I'm not trying. So, um, is speaking easy to develop to a very great to a high level of achievement? A lot of teachers would say no. Some people maybe find it easier, but let's have a look at some of the background literature. According to Penny Orr, she says that communication practice is one of the most important components of language learning and teaching practice, of having lessons in the classroom. But at the same time, she calls it one of the most problematic ones. And she claims that it's much more difficult to get learners to express themselves freely than it is to extract right answers in controlled exercises. A lot of teachers feel very strongly about this. You can get the learners to say yes or no, true and false, multiple choice, but getting them to develop any extended discourse seems to be quite difficult. According to Brown, he says that the ideal scenario for students to improve their fluency, we must let go. We must be willing to let go of some of the control in the classroom. And we must be willing to set up situations in which fluency can develop, and then encourage the learners to try and actually communicate. So there are keywords: fluency, let go, give them over the control, set up situations in which fluency can develop. Now, speaking, would you agree that it's a skill? It's a very highly composite skill, but it is a skill. Would you agree with that? Yes or no? It is also supported by a lot of linguistic knowledge. I mean, without words, without some grammatical awareness, without some functional intuitions, you can't really communicate. I am not going to talk about those parts of your courses and lessons in which you build up linguistic awareness and try to work towards acquisition, for example, by highlighting the difference with the present perfect simple versus the past simple. Although you could argue with me that that's also an opportunity for speaking practice. However, I want to look at the types of speaking practice that don't just focus on linguistic accuracy, but work mostly towards fluency. Now, skills acquisition, and I'm not talking about language skills acquisition, has taught us a lot about how people acquire skills. And by acquiring skills, we become skilled performers. As a teacher at my age and level of training, if you like, and experience, I consider myself a skilled performer like yourselves. I don't consider myself an unskilled performer, hesitating at every step on the way, thinking, oh, what am I going to do next? I'm going to do, oh, this didn't work, and so on and so forth. I am a skilled performer, and there are aspects of skills performance that I can analyze and share with you. So what do skills performers do? They do things that make aspects of their performance observable. You know whether someone is skilled or not skilled. You can tell. And if we look at what they do, we can draw some very good analogies for productive language skills, including speaking and possibly writing as well, if you're interested in other aspects of their production. So what is it that they do? Skilled performance appeared fast. So if you watch a chef, a skilled chef, he works very fast. I mean, I couldn't duplicate the speed at which they wield the knife, but they're not rushed or hurried. I ask you to okay, I can mute you. Sorry, Hara, I muted you because there was a little bit of background noise in your room. I apologize. So they appear fast, but they're not rushed or hurried. They're not spasmodically hurried. They're fast, but their performance, although it's rushed, it's smooth, yeah? And they look confident. A skilled teacher, a skilled chef, a skilled dancer looks confident in their performance of whatever it is they do. They make their performance look easy and smooth. If you look at this dancer, the way she's lifting her leg looks very easy. And I think, oh yeah, that looks really cool. I could do that. I can barely lift my leg 10 centimeters above ground level, but she makes it look so effortless. Yeah. And they also seem to be able to deal with the unpredictable. For example, a good chef can deal with a disaster in the kitchen. They can fix things. I am not a skilled chef, so if I burn something, I can't save it. Or if I ruin something, if I put too much salt, or I don't know what to do to save it. I'll just probably throw it away. The other thing that skilled performers can do is that they are aware of what the effect of their performance on others. A dancer, a skilled actor, a competent teacher, they know at every turn of their actual working life what they look like to others. A good speaker, a good lecturer knows the effect that their speech, their talk has on other people. A good writer is a skilled performer. They know the effect of their writing on other people. So skilled performers are aware of the effects of their performance. And they can deal with problems in their performance if these crop up. So in brief, if we look at the qualities of performance, they're fast, yeah, they're confident.
Δεν μπορεί να φύγει έτσι.
Because Haramu, would you please, I muted you again. Okay. There's a lot of noise in your environment. I apologize. I had to mute you again. So they're fast, they're confident, their performance is smooth, it's fast but unrushed. They can deal with the unpredictable. They are aware of the effect of their performance on others. They're aware of faults in their performance and they can fix them. Can you let me know if you think that translates into some observable qualities in terms of speaking abilities? Can you see the analogies? Would you like to write a comment in the text chat? No? Okay, never mind. One of the definitions of fluency is smoothness and fast and confident talk. So in most of the definitions of fluency, fast and smooth and unrushed is present. If you look at any dictionary or any linguistics dictionary definition of the quality of fluency, in any definitions of communication, we will see evidence of good communicators can deal with the unpredictable, because authentic communication is not planned and kind of, it doesn't follow a fixed scenario, and people can say anything that pops into the brain, and the coursebook doesn't have those kinds of unpredictable and unexpected turns of conversation. Obviously, good communicators are aware of the effect of their speech on others, so they use pronunciation, intonation, and tone of voice effectively, and they are aware of making mistakes. Sometimes they self-correct, or they try to improve, they look at their interlocutor and they, oh, you know, I didn't make myself clear. I'll rephrase, I'll compensate. So all these seem to be very, very relevant to communication, to good speaking, to a good speaking ability. How do they do it? They practice good skills performance practice. Pianists, dancers, actors, doctors, they practice. They repeat until something becomes part of their automatized performance and goes into automatic pilot. A good surgeon cannot be considering how to cut the incision while they're, you know, they know, they have muscle memory. We must, if you like, develop muscle memory and articulator memory in our learners as well, through lots of repeated practice. They rehearse. Actors, dancers, chefs, whatever you think about, TV presenters, good performers rehearse what they do. They practice and rehearse. They know things. It's not just through practice. So if you thought that maybe your learners don't need to know what a verb is, consciously or unconsciously, they kind of need that knowledge. I don't know how you will transmit it to them, but they need to know that the word do is different from the word lovely in some way. Maybe young learners don't know the meta language. They don't need the meta language of verb and noun, but they need to know that some words describe things and some words describe what we do. More advanced learners or adults can handle meta-linguistic knowledge. They are aware of their performance and of other people's performance. They can develop confidence through repetition, rehearsal, knowledge, and self-awareness. And they are flexible and easy. You know, they don't kind of die of agony if they make a mistake. They try to fix it, or they try to say it in a different way. Most of skilled performance benefit both from holistic kinds of practice and from analytical learning. Today, I'm going to focus on holistic kinds of practice and not the analytical learning leg, if you like. But obviously, it should be understood that I am not knocking grammar or vocabulary focused practice or language analysis in any way. I'm just saying that there are points on the course where we need to focus on developing speaking skills at a very high level. Spoken performance has all these components. We need our fluency, we need our accuracy. For example, how to facilitate when someone doesn't understand us, how to take our turn correctly without interrupting or being rude, how to repair grammar errors that we made during talk, choosing the right words for the right moment, for the right people, saying it in the right tone of voice, using the right accent if we can, or being comprehensible anyway. Having enough of a range for the communicative situation, having enough a range if for an advanced language situation. For example, if you're attending a scientific conference and you need to make a presentation, to give a presentation or to ask a question of a lecturer, you need a higher range of lexical and grammatical competence than writing a quick comment on TikTok or talking to your friend on the phone. Managing the discourse, managing conversations, managing the situation in which you're communicating by thinking about the extent of language that you need. In other words, will I say a lot or a little? Will I need to keep talking? Will I display coherence in my expression? And will what I say be relevant and not just sound like the rambling of somebody who's gone unhinged? And we also need our interactive skills and strategies to participate, because speaking is highly demanding. At the same time, in conversational situations, we're also listening and we're planning what we're going to say next. It's a very highly complex skill. And then we may need the skills of maybe changing the topic, initiating a different topic, responding to what the other person has said, or developing a topic further before moving on and to a new topic or theme by negotiating, if you like, the agenda of the particular communication instance. I hope I am not using terms that are unfamiliar to most of you. If there is something you don't understand, please feel free to pop a question in the text chat. And even some of my Delta trainees, I'm sure, will be able to help you because they're here and they probably know some of the terms that I'm using. Am I clear so far? I hope I'm not using too difficult terminology. Please reassure me or make a sad face. It's okay? Yeah? You don't understand? Just yes? You're sure? Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. So just a very quick summary. I'm not going to dwell too much, but basically when we talk, we tend to use basic vocabulary in informal speaking situations, not formal speaking situations like here. I'm using quite complicated vocabulary with you because it's it's not an informal speaking situation. It's a lecture, it's a presentation. We tend to use simple grammatical constructions. We don't tend to talk at sentence complex or embedded sentences or clauses. We use a lot of coordination. In other words, and or very, very simple clauses. What we say can be much less structured than a written text. It can be also quite messy sometimes. And pronunciation and intonation and nuclear and main tonic stress in a sentence is key for understanding, adds to meaning. And it's very instantaneous production. It's really lightning speed production. It happens on the spot. So sometimes we need to compensate and patch because our brain doesn't always run as quickly as our mouth, quite simply. And we need time gaining devices and things like, yeah, I was thinking that too, and kind of stalling and giving ourselves time to think. Now, in-class activities, as we said, can sometimes be not enough. But I think that I'm not sure about my particular group of friends here. I know some of you and how you deal with speaking. I don't know everyone. I apologize about that. But I would say that many teachers think of speaking either as something that happens at the end of a lesson. Is that what some of you consider as the moment of speaking, or do you have a different viewpoint? Can you write it in the text chat? Is speaking usually allocated to what we call the production stage? I need a clock. Yeah. Usually. The last part. Vito, thank you. That's a very good comment. This is what I've been kind of pushing, that speaking can happen throughout the lesson. And I want to show you a couple of ideas how to do that. For example, and the other thing that I want to, even if it's just a few bits and bobs, I want to say also that if we are going to be giving students things to do outside the class, and there's lots of interesting things they can do for us outside the class by way of speaking practice, necessarily, I think, most of the speaking activities in class should and can focus on interactivity, because there are other students present. And so we can, if we turn them into monologues, monologues can happen outside the class. In class, we have other people, and we can get them to interact with one another. And typical activities may be, some of you will be very familiar with this, because I know I recently talked about it to some of my groups at CELT. Information gaps, where typically student A has a different worksheet to student B, and they share and exchange information. So these are fact-finding missions, if you like. There will be opinion gaps in which you give them all the information. Everybody has the same information, but they have to exchange opinions and viewpoints. Reasoning gaps or problem-solving activities in which you give them some kind of little task to solve, something that needs a decision. And finally, drama activities such as role play, simulations, and improvisations. And I want to give you some examples of each one. For example, for information gap, you can see an example is describe and draw. Yeah, student A has a drawing, and student B listens to the description and draws the picture. Or describe and find the difference, picture A, picture B. I describe it and you tell me, oh no, so oh yeah, I don't have 5 people, I have 4 people in my picture. Or I give them half a picture each and unleash them into the class, and they go and talk to other people until they find the person who is in possession of the other half of their picture. Things like find someone who, you know these activities, right? Just type a quick yes or no in the text chat. Find someone who, or, you know, little questionnaires and quizzes where people get up and mingle. You will know these activities. For opinion gaps, we can have debates where half the class takes one side of the argument and the other half takes the other side. Yeah, because it's also get out of your seat and move it, because I'm a teenager. I don't want to be stuck behind the seat, right, Vita? group discussions and panel discussions. And panel discussions can be a little bit like debates, but they can be a little bit like role plays as well. Okay. Oh. Well, they like getting out of their seats as well. Panel discussions can be like group discussions, but in those you can assign roles to your trainees. So to the classic question that many of you have seen, the tired old composition question, should policemen carry guns? Oh my God, you know, I've heard it to extinction. You can get them to discuss it as a TV panel where you have a priest, a lawyer, an old actor, a TV presenter, a rapper, I don't know, whatever you think. And in role, they can discuss their ideas according to the mantle you have given them. Problem-solving activities, just a few examples. Decision makings like, here are 5 candidates for this job, who shall we hire? Here are 5 ideas for a building. What shall we build in our town? What will be more beneficial? Or we have 200 euros. How do you think our group should spend a day in London? And then you can give them information. For example, prices of tickets, prices of museum entries and stuff. And then they can decide how to spend their day. And finally, dramatization activities, in which maybe they can dramatize a scene from a novel or a story. They can role play a committee meeting. Not dissimilar to panel, but maybe you know, they act in role for some kind of situation, civic situation. Or another activity that I love a lot is you can give them a silent movie, not necessarily a very old one, just a movie scene without sound, and they can add dialogue and then act it out and pretend to be the actors in the movie. So these can be quite rewarding activities. And if you have a way in which they can actually do voiceovers in these silent scenes, they can be hilarious. There used to be a site called Bombay TV years ago, and we all had so much fun adding dialogue to old Indian movies with kings and bejeweled dancers and so on. And I don't remember if I have one in which one princess or one husband of a princess complains to his wife that she's neglecting him for her delta. This is like, but you know, it's what students wanted to say at the time, you know. Anyway, I thought that was funny at the time. We shouldn't also forget or neglect games, game-like activities, and gamifying competitive activities, or just simple improvised activities in which, you know, you give your learners, your groups, 5 words and they have to improvise a story, or you give them a picture and they have to compete who will find 10 problems with a picture or 10 hidden objects, and they have to compete with another group, or any game-like activity where they interact with each other is really quite, you know, it has to be done in class, and it can be done to break the flow of a heavy grammar stage. For example, if I'm doing in a lesson about the infinitive of purpose, instead of giving my learners a drill, I get them to compete in groups about who will generate most objects for a trip around the world, and also add the purpose for which they will take them. So I will take some books to read. I will take some blankets to keep warm. And instead of making it a drill, over you making a drill, they can generate this orally as a competition. Are we okay so far? Am I audible and visible and also comprehensible? Thank you. Here's just a very simple idea. You can actually also give them picture karaoke. These are just a simple idea to create a picture karaoke, and you can put irrelevant pictures in a PowerPoint, and you can time it 1 minute per picture, and somebody can run the pictures in the back, and the different groups can try to create a story as if it was a karaoke movie, running past them. There is a site that does this, and I will find it, but I forgot the title of it. But you can very easily find 10, 20 pictures, put them on a slide, and then just let them roll by and get the students to say something. I like the idea for younger learners and for older learners. I like the idea of making collaborative stories. Who knows Storybird? Does anybody know Storybird as a website? Well, let me share on my screen with you for Storybird, because it's a really great site, both for speaking and for writing. I'm just gonna sign in. I apologize because I hadn't prepared that link. Oh. There we are. And what you can find in Storybird is collections of stories. Let's say maybe you want to write a picture book, and you have all these image collections, each of which has a number of pictures hiding behind it. For example, in Dream Big, okay, maybe I need to pay to get to that, but I can find some free picture book. You'll remember she have Aspire. Oh, okay. I can't buy it, so I'm going to take you to the ones that I've created, just so you can see how you can use Storybird. Now, this one is called, is a little book that a classmate, and it's called My Friends and Their Pets. Can you see, however, the collection of stories around it, the collection of pictures? Yeah. So potentially, I've selected some pictures to make it into a story. And the cover is this. This is the first page. This is the second page. This is the third page. So I have got the learners to create a little story. But in order to create a story, they had to negotiate and say, so what picture shall we use? Let's have a look at this one. Let's have a look at this one. Oh, that doesn't look good. This one looks good because, this one looks good because it looks like a cat, but also it looks like a lion. So we could say my cat looks like a lion or whatever. So by hovering over the pictures, okay, here's another one in the back. No, I don't need that. So they can select from a very wide variety of pictures. They can select which ones they want. And let's say we want to add an episode to the story, which finishes here. And they can say, okay, I'm gonna choose this one. And what should we say? Something about my cat. So what has this cat done? It looks like that cat has stolen the goldfish. So we can make an episode in the story about Felix, my cat, who stole the goldfish and so whatever. And then they decide what to write here. And then they may want to add another episode, and they add this one. Okay. Usually the images in the stories are made by the same artist, and you can see that they have the same aesthetic, which is wonderful. And once you're done with them, I don't know if I have another one. Ah, yeah, okay. I have one here. I don't know why 3,000 people have. Okay. So can you see that all these images are by the same artist and they are kind of aesthetically similar? This is someone else's story. I think my membership has expired and they've just kept this one. I think I had one here, but I haven't finished it. I'm going to go out of this one. It's called storybird.com. Okay. You can become a free member and have limited access, obviously, to some of the visual aspects of the story. But I think, you know, for a class activity, that these should be enough. Let me go back to my presentation. Any questions so far? Okay, now the nice thing about Storybird is that if they create a story, they could also, you could also copy and print it for them and they can take it home, but that's another matter altogether. I'm not going to dwell so much on the writing, but rather on the concept of choosing the images that go into the story, because this is the part that is more interesting to me. Planning writing involves a lot of speaking and negotiating as well. So you shouldn't neglect classroom writing, and don't give all the writing as homework, but give them class writing activities with challenging images, improvisational elements, so that they can negotiate, choose, decide what to say, which picture, how to say it, how to write it, and so on. Is that also develops speaking skill to a very great extent. Improvisational stories are great. This one is an activity that you can create with Rory's cubes. If some of you know Rory's cubes, they have different images on each side and you throw them. There are 9 images and you throw the 9 dice for each group, and they have maybe to take a picture with their phone and make a story out of these 9 images. Okay. And they have to improvise the story. They have to negotiate, obviously, which image to use first, which one to use second. In this case, we have a mobile phone, we have a key, we have a die, we have a house, and so on and so forth. So these are different elements. This was also this was also taken by an app, which you can find on your phone. I don't think I have it any longer. Let me just see. No, I took it out because I didn't use it that much, but it's called the Brainstormer and it's free to download. And what you do is you roll, you know, you kind of, it's like wheels, and you play with the wheels, and people have to use what comes up here. For example, this group rolled the 3 wheels and they have to use, the situation is pray to misfortune, this someone who is an academic is part of the story, and the place is a bowling alley. Somebody else might find themselves in a different situation, in pursuit by a Viking, and maybe they have to use a puppet and so on. So that has 3 different tiers: situation, character, and place. And this is relatively new. I created a similar situation many years ago. I did a blog post from inspired by surrealist writers. You know what surrealist writers are. They just had to find really kind of hang on a minute. I need to go find my blog. And on my blog, there is a post, if you go to our blog, which goes Giant Story Maker, Ideas for 100 Million Stories. Okay? So if you can see that, I'm going to put the link in the text chat for you. So the idea is I have a story making machine that I can give you. And how it works is that you print 4 matrices. The first matrix is the matrix of characters. And I don't know if I can make it bigger. Possibly. Oh, no. So there are numbers from 1 to 9. So if you give me a number, a 2-digit number, can you give me a 2-digit number, someone, so that we can see how a story can begin? 24, Gabriella. So 24 is 24. We can go this way, 24. It's a burglar, or it's up to you to choose it. A war hero, 24. I will go with horizontally first and then vertically. So the character in my story is a burglar. Okay, so can you write that down, someone? So now we need to find where this story will take place. 24, it will happen in a circus. That's 24. And yeah. And the situation in the story, in the first episode of the story, is gossiping. And they have to use an object as well, which in this story is 2 cold pizzas. I have no idea how that happened. 2 cold pizzas. So you can give those 4 elements to a group and say, begin your story, and they begin to try and connect the burglar in a circus situation, maybe gossiping with some of the circus artists, and maybe he was pretending to be a pizza boy and he delivered 2 cold pizzas. Maybe he was trying to burgle them. I don't know. So they have to create the situation. And in the course of doing that, they will be practicing negotiating skills, creativity, critical thinking, fluency, and also problem solving. How do you connect all these apparently unconnected ideas to put them in a story frame? If they get stale and out of ideas, you say, choose another number. And they say, can somebody else choose a number? So we can see how the next episode might connect. And we can see 35, Deborah. So the object for number 35 is football. Yeah. And we have sorry, it wasn't gossiping earlier. It was breaking a code. So gossiping is this time, football and gossiping, or you can, that was my mistake. I didn't see it very well. For here, 35, so 35, no, sorry, 35 is losing all your money. So football, losing all your money, and the situation, and a snake pit, in a snake pit. And the character is a monster. So you can see that these are, you can print them. You can also, a minute, let me just go back to my presentation. You can actually make, if you print them out, you can actually also cut them up and make cards. And you can shuffle cards and you say, you pick a card, your group, you pick 4 cards. Or you can select them and just randomly and give 4 cards to each group, and they can pick the ones they want and make stories. Now, when to use speaking, I think some of you, and Vito said, all the time. And I think one of in the lead-in stages, it's a great activity for prediction. If, for example, they're going to be reading a story that has all these elements in it, give them a word cloud, give them a list of words. If you can't make word clouds, just make a list of words from the story, or even take a snippet of the middle column, maybe of the long page, and they, just say, the page was torn, and I don't know what happened to the rest of it. So can we guess what happened? And they can generate, you can tell them, use all these words to guess what happened in the story. And they can try to do it orally. And then they present to you the story, and you give them the text and they read it, or you play it as a listening activity if listening is what you're going to do with it. So speaking in the lead-in stages is a great way, and it would be very, very appropriate with the task-based language teaching cycle, in which, first of all, you give them a challenging task, in which case it would be make a story with all these words, predicting what perhaps will happen. They get some feedback, they listen or read the model, they notice the gap between their own performance and the target language performer, and then they go back and redo the task. They do some task repetition. Remember, we talked about repetition as an important aspect of improving speaking. Another kind of classic activity for generating predictions, which some of you I have taught, is called Questions Please, in which you give them elements from a story. This all happened in a story. And if you ask me a lot of questions, which I will answer every single one of them with a yes or no, then you take the answers and generate the story for me, okay? So my class would ask perhaps things like, is this about a teacher? Yes. Did he drive a Volkswagen? Yes. Did he wear a blue shirt? No. Was the teacher laughing? No. Did he fall asleep? Yes. Did he shave? Yes. And so on and so forth. I can only say yes or no, but I will answer every single question. And the students generate and brainstorm lots and lots of yes/no questions. Once they have all my answers, then they try to recreate the story and present it to me. Again, that's great speaking activity because it's driven by curiosity. There's not a question of predicting because the teacher has told them yes or no truthfully. Have you ever tried this activity, anyone? Questions, please. It's really, really quite effective because it's also gives them a lot of practice. Okay, no problem. Because it also practice question making. And one of the things that I have noticed in foreign language classrooms is that very often it's the teacher who asks all the questions, and the students don't necessarily have very much opportunity to ask questions themselves. So that kind of also serves the dual purpose of giving them opportunities for question making, which is quite important. Yeah. Now, Questions Please is a great activity. I took it from a book by Michael Rost, and it's called, if you can get a hold of it, it's called Learning to Listen by Michael Rost. If any of you can get hold of it, Rost. It has a lot of other great listening activities, but this one. So this is the instruction. Ask as many yes or no questions you can in 5 minutes, and then make up the story in groups, report, and listen to or read the original. This is a great speaking activity, which is a lead in, actually. Yeah. Now, we talked about this as a lead in, and I want to talk about speaking as the main lesson activity. And the idea comes from Edward de Bono's, who is an education psychologist, and you may know de Bono from his mind maps. He's very famous for his mind maps and, helping people learn content in more effective ways. The name of the psychologist is Edward de Bono, and he is one of my kind of a hero for me. And he's a learning specialist, and he's created this activity, the 6 thinking hats, which I think it's absolutely brilliant. So you can create some hats, or you can create some, headbands with the colors, the red headband. That person reports, talks about, or notices only things related to feelings, hunches, instinctual stuff, and intuitive stuff. The white hat or white band person, you can make a headband or a head mask for younger students. We used to create paper masks like burglar masks. Do you know can you remember what they were like? In the old times, burglars wore these masks here, and the children wear them and they just love them. They love being masked up like that. So the white mask only notices facts, information needed or known. The black one is the troubleshooter of the group. The yellow hat weighs the benefits, is the judge. The blue hat is the strategist. Okay, so what are we doing next? He's the group manager. And the green hat is the creative person who thinks of, oh yeah, but we could have done this, or we could do this. And I think this is a great activity which you can use again and again for any discussion topics, because you can keep the masks or the hats or the headbands, and you can give them, you can redistribute them. So this, for our next discussion topic, you're going to be a red hat. So you're going to be talking only about feelings and stuff. So this is, I don't know why this is coming up so many times. So this is the analysis of the white hats. For example, if you ask you could give them something to do, like solve a problem. For example, how to raise money for a school outing. The white hat will talk about and report information. For example, how much money do we need? How much money do we have? What is the cost of this? What is the cost of that? the red hat is, oh, we're going to have a great time and so on. And if we do this, we would, and it's going to be wonderful. And the yellow hat is very, very positive. Yes, and afterwards we will do this. Or they can read and report in hat mode. So you can give them a text, and each hat takes the information related to their hat only and reports it back. Oh, they can join a discussion in red, blue, or green hat mode. You can say, okay, talk about, recently in Greece, we've had a big problem with voting, can gay couples marry? And the law was just passed. But I mean, they could discuss important issues like that from the point of view of these different hats. Thoughts, ideas, comments? I mean, I think in many cases it's very difficult to get students talking. When you give them a discussion topic, it's very difficult to get them to generate viewpoints. And particularly the younger they are, the more training they need on how to acquire and perceive multiple perspectives. The multiple perspectives mindset is very much in line with critical thinking. And so, you know, speaking is creative, but it's also critical. It involves critical thinking skills. And having a viewpoint each time may give them a long-term training in understanding and using different viewpoints in their life and being more critical and more creative. Because each time they have to assume the role of the stern judge, for example, or the emotional person who understands only feelings and emotions. And this will, yeah. I think this will give them very good training. And if you go to Edward de Bono's website, I'm sure you will find a lot more useful reading background on the whys and wherefores of this technique. I found it useful for all kinds of groups, even teacher training groups. You know, you give them an idea and you say, so what do you think about this activity? And young teachers kind of look at me blankly. And if you give them a hat to think about, you think, yeah, no, it could, this could go wrong. No, but it will have good, positive repercussions, and it will affect the way. So it has a lot of different perspectives. According to Brown, and if you want the reading list, I will give it to you later. Few, if any, people achieve fluency in a foreign language solely within the confines of the classroom. It's very, very rare that you will get people to develop their speaking skills. So they need outside time as well. And so I want to suggest some out of class activities that will generate rehearsed maybe talk, but possibly talk that is it will focus on monologic language, not dialogues, although it's possible to have a series of independent dialogues, monologues interactively. So for example, people could send voice messages to one another, but it won't be a simultaneous interactive talk. It will be over time. They will practice rehearsed talk and longer terms, or what we call sustained talk. And this is also assessed in exams, in higher level exams, isn't it? They have to talk for 1 or 2 minutes. They need it in order to pursue sometimes their academic life, their professional life. So maintaining a long term, not term, hang on a minute, I'll fix it later, is tested in exams and in professional and academic life, where you have to make a presentation or you have to talk for it during a seminar and so on. Now, another idea is for the learners to create their own little video or audio. And I took this idea from an old site, which is no longer, it doesn't exist any longer, but it was hugely popular when it was on. And it had hundreds of videos of people telling stories, some of which were true and some of which were a bluff. And I made one for you using Flipgrid, and I think I can play to you now just to show you how you can use it on Flipgrid. Let me find my Flipgrid if I can get it. Yeah, there we are. I'm going to share my screen for my Flipgrid, which I made earlier today. And I'm going to tell you a story, yeah? And you have to tell me whether it was true or a bluff. I hope I can get it. There you are. This happened to me several years ago. I had been out with some friends, going out for a meal. It was a reunion and it was a group of really, really good friends. So they walked me back to my building, to my flat, and we stood outside saying goodnight, and I was kissing this person and that person. And then I suddenly realized I was kissing a complete stranger. And he looked at me and he said, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" And he slapped me across the face. So I was really embarrassed. So what do you think? This is true or a lie? What do you think? Was it true or was it a bluff? Did you hear it? Bluff, bluff. Why? Bluff. So many people think it's a bluff. Why? Anyone else? Truth or bluff? No one else wants to talk to me. Okay, never mind. I don't mind if you're not talking to me, but what I would do, this is a group that I've created on Flipgrid, and I would register all my students and they would be able to go in and say and write here true, or they would both bluff, and I would know who voted truth or bluff. Okay, actually it was a bluff. This was another group we had recently, and we asked them to tell us what they enjoyed on their course in Athens. But sometimes we asked trainees, students who are coming to Athens for English language classes to do this before their course. And we had, and they say to us what they want to learn. And they don't need to actually
So I'm going to talk about the influencer Julia Buttig, whose real name is Julia Vlecke. She is a German web video producer and influencer, actress, and she's a singer. She was born on April the 27th in the year 1999.
Actually, this was misnamed. Sorry. This wasn't what you enjoyed in Athens. They were doing a lesson on influencers, and their teacher put them on Flipgrid, and they told us of their favorite influencer in Germany, and they were giving us this student was giving us information about the influencer. As a result of that, they created a presentation in class and they made a little PowerPoint and they talked about their influencers on Instagram, on German Instagram, that we knew nothing about. Okay, so my story was a bluff. True. You were right in identifying it as a bluff. Actually, it was true that I kissed a complete stranger. Yes, no problem. I did kiss that complete stranger, but he said, oh God, it's my lucky day, because he was just passing through. All right, so I talked about story making. Okay. The next activity is a similar one to the Flipgrid, but I think I just want to say to you that sometimes even reading as homework may work better, because particularly if you have discussion questions, like for example, this teacher says, what is one interesting fact that you learned about introverts? Are you an introvert or an extrovert? And she got the students to listen to a TED talk, and then got them to record their ideas on a VoiceThread, which is similar to Flipgrid.
I have viewed the TED Talk by Susan Cain on the power of introverts. Then simply answer the 3 questions on this paper, the 3 questions here, and make sure when you answer them and record yourself, try to use at least 5 of these vocabulary words. And as you use the word, please circle or underline each word as you say it. Okay, looking forward to hearing your responses. Hi, this is Kanako. Number 1. One interesting fact about introverts is that introverted leaders often deliver better outcomes than extroverts do. Since clarified that definition of introversion is different from being shy is also interesting for me. Number 2. I think I'm introvert because it's difficult for me to talk with a group of 5 or 6 people, even though I all know them individually.
Okay, so you understand how that works, yeah? Now, these are the story making machines that I showed you earlier. Animations are quite a lot of fun, and there are many tools for animation, particularly this one is called, I think this was called Normal, but hang on a minute, let me write in the text chat. And the first video is by 2 students who were asked, actually they did it, one student did it, but he used the voices of characters.
Growth. English grammar is so complicated, isn't it? May I ask you a question, please?
Sure. How can I help you?
Can you tell me the difference between future continuous and future perfect?
Okay, if I can persuade you to go out with me on Saturday evening, we'll have a good time. That is future simple. And when we will be dancing together during this evening, that is future continuous.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And by Sunday morning, we will have had a great night. That will be perfect. I mean, that is future perfect. Any other questions?
Oh no. Thank you.
So this was created by one student, and he recorded it with this particular app, and there are a couple of apps like that you can use. This one is a different one, where the 2 students created a parent-teacher conference.
I'm so glad you could make it today. It seems your son Timmy is having some trouble in my class. He has been placed in school suspension 3 times this semester, and he is now failing. We need to come up with a plan to help Timmy be more successful in school. You're the teacher. Why don't you come up with a plan on your own?
And so on.
Mrs. Smith, I can only help
Who
Timmy.
English
while he's here
grammar
at
is
school.
so complicated, isn't
Good
it?
morning, Mrs. Smith.
It's also possible to get them to make to pretend they're famous people. I've lost this video, but I did it some years ago. I don't know if I mean they can. I was doing I am a Greek actress and I'm famous, and I won an Oscar, and I put these glasses and I played it to my trainees, and they had to guess who I was. This was an example, and then the students went off and did videos of being Che Guevara, or being Donald Trump, or being very famous people by putting in little different props on their heads. So creating videos is great fun. And this is another one which you can do. You can get the learners to record, but you can also actually get them to prepare it at home and present it in class. And I particularly love it because it involves a board and papers. And look at this one.
These days, you have to watch your back. Danger may be lurking where you least expect it. You may find a relative, friend, or neighbor coming after one thing: your brain. This Halloween is forecasted to be a high season for zombie attacks, and we're going to help you get through it, brain intact. This is Zombies in Plain English. The first step is identifying a zombie. Let's take your Uncle Dan. Here's Dan as we all know him, a normal guy. Now, let's look at Dan as a zombie. Notice the unnatural mouth position and dark eyes. The shoulders will be off kilter, arms reaching, grabbing, legs limpy, skin pale.
Now, what this group created was the idea of using your board and a lot of different cutouts, which the students can also find online, is that they can create little presentations like that, and they can do examples, they can do how-to, they can do show and tell activities, which are very easy to organize in class, or they can video themselves doing them at home. Okay, I think I need to kind of start wrapping up because I said 90 minutes and I want to be in good time for you to have time for questions. So I've been looking at the idea of speaking as homework. You remember the story about the Rolls Royce that I showed you earlier for prediction. This is one that I gave them as homework. I'm sorry, and some students recorded the story.
I've had all your versions, then I will upload the text to the actual story and I'll read it out to you.
Well, Marisa, here's my story. I told my husband that my company was going to move to London. I asked him what he thought of having a new life where we had worked and enjoyed a wonderful life many years before. He was puzzled and added that we had to borrow a little fortune to do that. Then he said we could ask for a good loan to our bank. Maybe there was a transaction.
So I think I'm going to stop it here. You don't need to listen to the whole story, but you see how the learners logged into VoiceThread and recorded this session. Flipgrid and VoiceThread are quite nice because they are protected sites, particularly if you have younger learners and teens. Adults can protect themselves, most adults anyway. But if you have below age students, you want to put them into a safe environment where, you know, they're not going to be attacked by some perverts. So VoiceThread is specifically for education, and Flipgrid, well, you need a code that you can only be given by your teacher to go into Flipgrid and listen to a voiceover or comment on somebody else's production. So speaking homework is very important. And it can be more motivating than the common homework, because you can't get students to sit and write down all the story, but I could get 5 different students to log into VoiceThread and record a story. Yeah. I think if you read, I don't have time to show you my presentation here, but you can get them to make stories with another wonderful site, which I had on my blog. I think I can give you the link here to read this one about digital storytelling. And digital storytelling is particularly nice for homework. In this case, I used a wonderful website which I found, and it's called Creasa. But I'm a lot of time accessing it. It's a site that was, I think it's Swedish, but you can access it on your, there you are, log in with Creasa. It's used with in Swedish schools, and I have an account, but it's very difficult to see it because of the flash on my computer. And I particularly used Cartoonist, where you can find backgrounds about society, about nature, and you can make stories, and you can get students to create stories with all of these tools. So if you can find Creasa, it's an education site, and I don't think you have to pay, because educators don't pay. And you can get the students to find a lot of animation tools to create their own little stories. And I made a story with Little Red Riding Hood, but I couldn't actually play it for you. I don't know why I couldn't play it. You can see why it's taking a lot of time to roll down, and it's not easy to find. But I'm going to try and wrap up with a few words of wisdom about homework in particular, and in specifically talking about monologic, getting the learners to produce stories, presentations, even picture karaoke's or pechachkas. I don't know if you know what a pechakucha is. It's it's a little presentation where you create 6 or 10 slides, and you have only 20 seconds for each slide, and then the slide kind of promotes itself. It's a great tool for us to develop speaking skills at home. It's more motivating as homework than writing down, reams of homework and compositions, which I'm not motivated to write either. And in general, try to create activities that integrate the language skills, that are collaborative, that are creative and playful, that engage the students through interesting content, generate unpredictable responses, and kind of mobilize wider areas of language than just a particular grammatical point that you want your students to practice on the day. If we look at education objectives according to Bloom's revised taxonomy, you can see that higher order thinking skills involve criticism, analysis, and evaluation. But it doesn't mean that we need to neglect the lower order skills, because knowledge supports creativity and creative and critical thinking. And most people will show this as a pyramid, but I think of it as maybe not necessarily a pyramid. The top part is not the narrow part, it's very wide. So I would say that for lower order thinking skills in the classroom, you can use mnemonics, contextualization, reading, listening comprehension activities, mining text for language. And as you go up and apply, you can see classroom communicative activities, games, surveys. And the higher up you go, you're thinking of talks, presentations, videos, voiceover, improvisations, and so on and so forth. So you're going into more productive language skills and activities. Well, I hope you had some good time. Thank you. Do get in touch if you have any questions. If any of you want to have certificate, I'm going